Welcome to Season 4 of the Bird Joy Podcast. Your hosts, Dexter Patterson and Jason Hall, are back with more birds, more bird joy, and plenty of laughs along the way. Each episode brings new stories, fun conversations, and a whole flock of good vibes. We're happy you're here. We really miss the homies, and we hope you enjoy this season. You ready? Let's go.
All right, folks, welcome back. Welcome back to another lovely episode of the Bird Joy Podcast. I am Jason Hall, here with Dexter Patterson, and today's guest is someone who has helped reshape how many of us think about birding, community, and liberation. Sam DeJarnett is a birder of 4 years and the creator and host of the Always Be Birding podcast. Through her podcast, Sam creates space for Black and non-Black people of color who are birders, conservationists, and nature lovers, while challenging traditional narratives of birding and conservation using the lenses of critical race theory. Sam's philosophy around birding is both simple and powerful. We bird as joy, we bird as protest, we bird as community, we bird for collective liberation, and no matter who you are or where you are, you can always be birding. Sam's journey into birding began through wildlife rehabilitation and later deepened while working at Portland Audubon, where experiences of exclusion pushed her to interrogate why birding spaces can feel unwelcome to so many. Instead of walking away, she built something new. Sam was also the first podcast host to bring Dexter and I on together, and she was part of the 2022 Black Birders Retreat at Little St. Simon's Island, where she shared a metaphor about the birding communities functioning like a mycelium network that has stayed with me since. This conversation is about changing narratives, building liberatory outdoor spaces, birding as resistance, and imagining new futures for conservation. Sam, welcome to the Bird Joy Podcast.
Wow. That was real fire, Jason. Dang.
I can't take credit for that. You gotta give credit to your boy Dex for that. I just provide the smooth vocal overtones for that.
You know what? That was really,
but we gotta mix it up. You know, we alternate who does the introduction so it don't get get monotonous or nothing. But I write them.
Well, thank you, Dexter, for writing that. That was crazy. I was like, did I do all that? That's really crazy. Okay.
You sure did. You sure did. And that mycelium network, we're going to talk about that later.
Man. Yeah, I love that. Well, thank y'all so much for having me. You know, I've been peeping y'all for the last couple of years, and I'm like, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready to finally be on this season and talk with my homies, because you know it's really also like listening to that introduction back does throw me back to having to introduce y'all on my podcast, and I'm like, I love. It's almost like how the tables have turned, you know?
Well, we appreciate you. We appreciate you so much, Sam. And you are a joy to hang out with, your energy, the work that you do. And you have one of my favorite bird origin stories. Can you take us back to your early relationship with nature and that moment that birds really kind of entered your world?
Yeah. So how far back you trying to go, Dexter?
As far back as, as far back as you want to go, where you feel like, yeah, okay, this the one, you know?
Yeah. So I have always been around animals, working with animals for a very long time. And I started in wildlife rehab when I was in college. And that was like, I really wanted to be a zookeeper. And basically I couldn't get through chemistry because that was hard. And so that was no longer my trajectory. So my advisor at the time was like, have you ever thought about like wildlife rehab? And I was like, I don't even know what that is. And so I ended up doing an internship in Cleveland, Ohio, where I'm from. And that got me into the rehab aspect of it, but not the birding aspect of it until like I was dealing with like all kinds of crazy stuff. Like they're like, go grab that bald eagle. I was like, excuse me, what? You know? And I didn't know
like the real thing. You're talking about like
go grab
the bald eagle, right?
Yeah. The bald eagle.
Just go grab one, you know?
Yeah. And I was like, oh, okay. And so at that time I was learning a lot of things about birds, but not about them without injury, right? And so it's a little bit different. And so I was introduced to them in not their natural habitat at first. And so then I moved out here to Portland, Oregon, where I'm currently at. And I started volunteering at Portland Audubon and their wildlife rehab center. And over the years, got some promotions, got hired, blah, 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 blah. And once I was hired on there, I went out with the education team for a birding outing, and it was my first one. I was like, "Oh, y'all like birds. This isn't just like let's have them. Oh, y'all actually like them.
Birds here.
you like them when they're not down and out and like have a broken wing. Oh, okay." And so that was like my very first interest. And these people are birders, you know. And so it was like meant to be like a little bonding thing of the team. And we went out to this place in just outside of Portland, Oregon, called Steigerwald National Park, I think. And I'm with these people. They're like, "There's that, there's this, there's that." And I was like, "Oh, okay, I don't know what that is. Okay, cool." But then we got to the river, and I distinctly remember being like in complete awe of this bird. It was a bald eagle. And this bird was like this far off of the water line, just like booking it after a male mallard. That mallard was toast, like absolutely done for. And it was like the coolest thing that I had ever seen because, you know, again, I'm coming from a situation where, you know how you meet people and you're like, "I love birds." And they're like, "Birds are real?" That was me before I started in wildlife rehab. I was like, "What's a bird? I've never seen one," you know? And then seeing them in their, you know, in an abnormal territory where they're very injured, they're, you know, there's a high euthanasia rate, to seeing a bald eagle healthy, living its best life, about to do the thing that it was made to do, which is hunt and kill something. Seeing that on my very first birding outing, that was it. That was a wrap. I was like, "Oh my God." I was like, "Dang, I just didn't know." You just don't know until you see something like that, how amazing it is, you know?
Oh, and they just want you to go grab one.
Exactly.
After you watch it take out this mallard.
Exactly. They're like, "Go get that thing." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. Here's some gloves." I'm like, that seems like not enough, but yeah. So that was the moment for me where, you know, I was lucky to see that on my very first birding outing. I feel like a lot of new birders don't necessarily have that type of experience. And so that put me on to, what's this birding thing about? How, you know, like, is it always like this? And it kind of is, you know what I mean? Like, it really kind of is. You might not always see a bald eagle hunting, but just to see these animals in their natural environment do what they're supposed to do is just really cool, no matter what.
Can I ask, because like this is, and you kind of jumped into it already, of like going from the rehab aspect into viewing these creatures when they are healthy and living naturally in the environment. Did the two things ever kind of start to, like, did they start to overlap? Like, were there things that you became curious about in the rehab because of what you saw out in the wild, or vice versa? Like, how did those two things start to coexist as you went through time? Because I imagine like you probably had helped some bald eagles get better or helped some bald eagles transition before you saw the bald eagle go find his lunch with the mallard, right? So like when you walk back into the rehab facility the next day, were you looking at them kind of sideways? Like how did that like, kind of work out?
Like, let me be a little more careful. Yeah. I think like when I was in Ohio, I think that I was really young and I was like still in college. I was probably like 19 or whatever. So I didn't know nothing about nothing really. And so my brain was just like absorbing everything I possibly could absorb about it. But I was kind of way more interested in the science of rehab, like I guess not science, the medical aspect of it, with like the types of injuries and like how to heal them, and releasability versus non-releasability. And I think in Ohio, I don't think that I ever had that moment until they started me kind of talking to the public about their permanent resident birds that they had, like little saw-whet owls, or like, you know, a great horned owl. And they had me talking to the public. And then that was the point where I had to learn that information about them, right? That wasn't just like, you know, here's how to treat an eye injury on an owl. It's what are the facts about a great horned owl that make it so cool that you can get the public interested in them and thus conservation, right? And so that was that would be the crossover, I think, where I was like, okay, I had to start learning more facts. But I never went birding in Ohio until I got to Oregon. So yeah.
Let's switch gears a little bit and dive into a conversation about belonging, exclusion, changing the narrative. You've been really open about the feeling you had like you didn't belong when you first entered organized birding spaces. And I think that sentiment is shared by a lot of BIPOC birders as a whole. Can you talk about what that disconnection felt like in those moments?
I think that what really pointed that out to me was several different moments. So being in Portland, Oregon is a wild ride as a Black person or BIPOC. And it is just this city is just really built on racism, and like the current notion of it is to pretend that it's not. Just to pretend, and then anyway, so long story short, I'm going out, like after that experience with the bald eagle, I was like, dang, I really want to go out. Everyone around me was white, literally everybody. And so shout out to Tara. Tara is my birding mentor. She's taught me everything I know about everything. She's amazing. And she and I would go out all the time. And I had I did not feel that way until I decided that I wanted to join like an official birding outing through Portland Audubon, because that was the only way that I knew. I didn't know of any like independent little clubs or anything like that. So I show up and I'm like the youngest person there, and I'm the only non-white person. And just like the way in which when you show up as somebody who also doesn't know anything, and there is almost no room for fostering the curiosity at a base level, it's kind of like, oh, you don't know this fact? Oh, then I'm going to over-explain it to you in these really like scientific terms and all this. And it just overwhelmed me. And it made me feel like I wasn't meant to be there, because I literally physically like didn't look like anybody. That was uncomfortable. And then the ways in which people were, I always call it Pokemon Go, just trying to collect them all, and just like listing and just like that style of birding. We all know it. I do it now, right? But like, at the time, it felt very foreign to me, and it felt very inaccessible to me. And it felt like I'm never going to know enough. I also didn't have binoculars. Like, I'm never going to be a birder. It's how I felt going to those outings.
It's hard to feel welcome when you don't see anybody that looks like you. You're brand new. And I've said this numerous times. Like, I had the same experience, Sam. Like, you go to these traditional white dominated birding spaces and questions are not literally like welcome. Like, they assume they bird assuming you know what they know.
Yeah.
Right. They don't care necessarily like, oh, you're brand new. You don't know what a robin is. You don't know what this is. You don't know. Like, they just assume you know. And then if you do get the courage to ask a question or something, they look at you like you're crazy because you don't know. And that was one of the first things, like when we started our club, like I was like, I want this to be a space where every single question is not only asked, but encouraged. Where people like know, like from the jump, like you can ask anything. Don't assume that, I don't care if you had never seen an American goldfinch or a blue jay or whatever, it might be at the time. Like, I always tell people, you see a bird, point at it, you're being helpful. We can figure it out together. And that approach, I remember going to those same thing, having that experience and like, man, I need to see more. And going to those spaces and looking around like, am I supposed to be here?
Right.
Is this for me? Like, what is, there's a reason I ain't tell people I ain't like birds, you know what I'm saying?
Exactly, right? You're like, and it's two levels, right? I'm sure that there are many young white people that feel that way as well when they enter into a space full of older white people and they're a novice birder or they're very interested in it. People have to understand that when you are Black or brown or indigenous and you have that second layer of like, really don't belong here, like, and because it's sometimes, not all the time, there are moments, and I've had these moments where I'm out and people look at me like, why do you y'all know the feeling, y'all know what I'm talking about. You know the look. Yeah. And it's just like, I'm just here for the birds too. Like,
I do this.
I do this. Yeah. I know some stuff now, So yeah, I don't know. It was very quick for me when I started birding out here. I was like, wow, okay, this is actually very problematic. And I also like during that initial bald eagle experience, I always say this too, like when I got excited, and so did everybody else in my group, obviously it's cool, there was an older couple who immediately vocally shushed us in that moment. And I will never forget that because I hate that to my core. Like somebody is so thoroughly excited about like just outside, something is happening outside. And how dare you try to control that moment and make it so that it benefits your own experience. That bald eagle didn't hear us. He was busy.
He don't even care. He's eating.
Don't care at all.
Like we're also in a city. Hello, like it's okay. You know what I mean? Yeah. So
Joy
that's another
jackers,
part of
man.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So
joy jackers.
A lot of my initial experiences have informed how I talk about birding, how I lead birding outings, and the things that I am very firm on. Changing. So
sure, you've very openly and consistently named how racism, sexism, homophobia, xenophobia, all those things are embedded in outdoor recreation and conservation. And I wonder, what do you think people miss when they refuse to see that truth?
That's a good question. I think at the end of the day, I think that the human population, human species are a species that thrives on connection, right? And being in groups, right? That is where we are at our finest, is when we're together. And I think when people, specifically white folks or even some non-Black people of color, don't acknowledge how history is deeply intertwined into everything that we experience today. If we're not acknowledging that, then there's no room to break down those barriers that have been built in. And then you just quite simply don't have the ability to connect with a stranger or a friend that you just met as well as you could. And I think that you also are not experiencing the full breadth of the world around you. Like you're really missing out on the details and the full picture of everything if you're not interested in, if you're only interested in seeing one point of view or one narrative, then you are missing out on everything.
You really touched on something I want to quick follow up on. How does that historical erasure still shape birding spaces today?
Well, I just recorded a podcast episode about that. That will be out soon. And without getting too heady, too deep, because me and my guest talked for 2 hours about this.
Wow.
One aspect of it, I think there are many. One aspect of it is quite literally we got real lost in the sauce on this, because I think that these are very large concepts that are hard to take a little bit smaller to simplify, I guess is what I'm saying. But I think there's just the way that we bird, right, today, the competition aspect of it, the listing, the big year, that way of birding is actually quite literally rooted in hunting and like ornithology back in the day that was built around competition to get the most bodies to then be considered bodies of birds, right? To then be considered the best or the most knowledgeable ornithologist. Audubon was very guilty of this. He was in like competition with people to collect the most amount of specimens, quote unquote, to then deem him the very best or the smartest. But really, all he was doing was like just killing birds and drawing them. And so it's just like that whole kind of narrative is still here today. I just I said this at the conference that we were at, Jason, it's just been rebranded to look a little bit different, to be a little bit more accepted, though nothing has changed. Like it's not changed because the world around us is changing. It's changed to fit into what it is, but still be what it was. Does that make sense?
Oh, that makes perfect sense, right? It's the same principles and tenets, right? It's the same hierarchical structure, right? The same thing we felt when we went to our first bird outings and we weren't welcomed because someone felt like because of everything historically, we automatically were starting at the bottom. And the same thing is true through all that other stuff. And I'm wondering, like, y'all gonna have to tune into Sam's podcast to get the full detail, because I don't want to give away any spoilers. But you had just talked about showing up to that bird outing and not feeling welcome, right? And part of that not feeling welcome is that people walk into those outings with this narrative in their head around newcomers, particularly newcomers of color, of non-European descent, right? And like, what narratives do you think are most harmful that folks need to be aware of today? Like if they're going into a bird outing, when they see someone new or they see someone that's from a background that's not theirs, for them to check themselves right away, say, hey, am I thinking this?
Yeah. I think that, and this is like part of my ongoing fight, is that a lot of these pillars of racism don't exist in every facet of what we do here, right? So in terms of birding, one of the things is these stereotypes that people hold on to, that like white people hold on to about Black folks or about people of color, that we don't like to be outside, that we can't afford to be outside, we can't afford the binoculars, we are doing, instead of wanting to go birding, that we would like to do XYZ stereotype instead. Play a sport, whatever stereotype that you want to put in there, instead of being in love with nature or being in love with science or anything like that we don't like that kind of stuff. And I think that that's one of the bigger ones that people really have to check themselves if somebody's walking up into your group or into your neighborhood or whatever, and they are just simply being curious, to not assume that there's something else going on, because curiosity is literally the simplest form of what's happening,
Yeah.
Oh,
and like they see us on the side of the road with our big camera or something, like we ain't doing nothing wrong.
What you think we're taking a picture of? Like, hello.
And it's so easy to see it in so many other places too. And the way it shows up in birding is quite unique. But like, we're having this argument in Philly right now around parks that they're redesigning, and they're saying, oh, these are for non-white communities, these are for Black communities, but the only thing they want to put in the park is sports. When we ask for green space, they're like, no, we need more basketball courts and more soccer fields. And I'm like, yeah, but kids don't like birds. Like, right. Our community doesn't need a safe, quiet green space. And like, so it comes out in these different ways. And your brain, your response just triggered that in me. How it goes from a small birding group outing to local policy in your municipality, That
mentality comes from Black men getting auctioned off on the block because of their physique, right? And so like that's where that stereotypes comes from. It's just, no, y'all just play sports. What? No, I want to read a book on this bench, like, hello.
I'd like to see a bald eagle eat a mallard. Like, can you just, seriously.
For real.
Sam, what I love about you is you about that life. And the Always Be Birding podcast is literally a direct response to what we've been talking about. What does it mean to you to build the antithesis to those dominant narratives that have been established that kind of label us in certain ways?
When I started the podcast, you're right, it was quite literally a direct response to an experience that I was having at Portland Audubon, which was full of racism and sexism, despite literally anything that I was doing or quite literally proving to them that they were doing that was wrong. And so I think I say this in like some of my earliest episodes, is that like the reason that I wanted to even get on the mic was to vent, but then it turned into this really deep pain that I was experiencing at that time, that I still could sit here and bawl my face off, because I was in a position to do my dream work. And so I chose to walk away because I was experiencing some crazy levels of racism. And what it means to me to continue to not only highlight how racism shows up in birding or ornithology or conservation or whatever, but also to like talk to other people, is because I don't want anybody to feel as sad as I felt having to do that.
Yeah.
Like, I genuinely don't. Like, that was one of the lower moments of my life. And to be put in a position where you have to either continue to go home and cry every day and fight with a battle that you will not win. Eventually you will lose, or to walk away and make that choice for yourself over my age, my identity, my skin color, anything like that. That is so absurd. Like, that is an absurd thing to have to do. And so for me, doing what I do on this podcast is like, it means everything to me, because this is like my identity. This is my experience. And it's a shared experience that I have with many, many members of my community. And I know that because and y'all know that because we talk to everybody all the time about it. It's not a one-off thing. And so I just don't ever want people to feel like they have to accept the way that this is set up, because we don't.
Yeah. That's absolutely true. Folks, obviously at this point, if they don't know already, they're going to know about your podcast. They're going to go listen, right? It's joyful. It's sometimes political. But what you just talked there, like having to manage those emotions, those feelings, right? And then flip that into a platform where you are then pushing directly against it. Talk to me about how you use joy in that resistance work. We interviewed Drew Lanham, Dr. J. Drew Lanham, right? He's got the poetry book, Joy is the Justice We Give Ourselves, right? Which is incredible. And I'll say it's a tough concept for a lot of people to get, is finding joy in the midst of pain and struggle. And I know for those of us that have grown up in Black communities, it's maybe a little bit easier for us to understand. But how do you use it in your work?
I think right out the gate, I think it's also been an extremely difficult thing for me to maintain, to be honest, that I'm finding these days. But when I first started the podcast, or even first started leading birding outings, I still do believe that joy as the deep antithesis to the hate that we do experience is political. It is a protest. It's a statement, because how else are we supposed to deal with the world? If we just sit in that glass is half empty mentality all the time, or we sit in defeat, or we try and stay in that fight, but that fight is fueled by only anger. That's hard. That's hard on your body. Yeah. That is hard to maintain that.
Yeah.
And
sure
so
is.
I think you have to, in my latest podcast episode with my friend Ja, who experienced a racially motivated wrongful termination, we're having this very serious conversation about what happened to him. But he kept goofing off and making these freaking jokes, and we were cracking up. And I had to be as we are laughing and experiencing this joyful moment together, because me and him understand the absurdity of it, we're still saying something very serious, but in order for us to deal with and cope with the level of seriousness, the level of hurt that he had experienced, the level of aggression that was experienced towards him, we have to laugh. And he said it great. He was like, Black people know how to do that the best. So I feel like I try to do that in my interviews, and I try to do that on my outings, is that we know why we're here. If you're on the Always Be Birding podcast, you know why you're here. You're going to have a very serious conversation. It's going to be a little difficult. It's going to be a little emotional, but we're going to kiki and laugh as well, because that's important. I do think that it's important to utilize the things that have caused you pain, but that can't be the only thing that pushes the narrative or the narrative change or the shift forward. It has to also be full of joy as well.
That is powerful. I let you mention the outings too. And I love just kind of watching what you're organizing in your communities and what you're doing. You're out with experts, baby birders, everybody, right? Yeah. People of all walks of life. What happens, Sam, when you all are out? And I always tell people, when I'm out on a BIPOC only hike or Black only hike, the conversations are different. The jokes are different. The energies are different. What happens when you're out on those outings that you organize, when that knowledge is starting to be shared horizontally?
I always start out my outings with your name, your pronouns, and then a little icebreaker thing. And that and then also is this your first time birding? And even if there is nobody on my outing that is their first time out there, I'm going to treat it as if it's birding 101. My outings never really shift into more
all the different red crossbill calls. Yeah,
I don't do that. And part of that is that I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, I don't bird like that. That's not my style. I don't know, and you don't know, so we're going to learn together. And that's the horizontal part, is when you don't act like you know everything, even if you do.
Preach.
You don't act like you know everything, because ultimately you really don't, right? And so, and I also really love that a lot of people that come out on my outings are extremely knowledgeable in something outside that I don't know nothing about. 9 times out of 10 is plant. I don't know nothing about that plant right there. I don't know. But other people do. And that is also a horizontal share, because birds and plants naturally go together. It's not pretending like you know everything. And then it's also not pretending or assuming that anyone on your outing doesn't know something that is beneficial to the conversation that maybe doesn't have nothing to do with birds.
That's how you make everybody feel welcome too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a great way just to level set it. You belong here. You belong here. I'm getting my Oprah on. You belong here.
Yeah.
But it is. And I love that approach. I do that every time too. Any new birders here, and it's like every event, there's at least a hand or sometimes multiple. Yeah. And I'm always really excited, and we clap for those people, and we let them know right away if you have any questions. I'll point out our leadership people and let them know, hey, you can ask any of these people questions. And then I say, you know what? And a lot of the folks here, they can answer your questions as well. And next thing you know, now people know they're surrounded. And they know, like, I'm in a community. Like, I can ask questions. I don't have to be afraid. I can point at something that I've never seen before and say, what's that? Or what did you hear? And it changes the entire vibe. And then they go home and they say to themselves, dang, I belong outside. That was kind of cool. You know, I'm going to go back out with Sam. Sam and them kind of cool. You know, I'm going back out. So I love it. You doing it the right way.
I'll be trying, you know.
Is there anything that you've learned? I know you do outings all over the city. Is there anything your guests have taught you that you didn't expect?
You know, and I want to say that this isn't necessarily even about birds or like nature. But one thing that like I have learned to foster is actually not talking about birds while we're out. So a lot of times people genuinely just want to hang out with another person and just be outside. And so like lately I've just been saying, you know, we're just hanging out together, but we just happen to be looking for birds, because it does something that people have challenged me with as a birding leader, right? Is that like every moment doesn't need to be spent talking about birds or spitting facts or like filling empty time with some kind of knowledge, you know what I mean? And that a lot of times, like, you know, I'll be walking and people are just like kikiing with each other behind me about whatever, because a lot of times they also know each other or they don't, but Portland is small. And so they know of each other. And so like there's a lot of crossover there. What a lot of my people who come on my outings have taught me is to like let the outing be whatever it's gonna be. It could be heavy on birds, it could be heavy on nothing. You know what I mean?
That is so good. Like I don't think people understand how powerful that is. That's the approach I actually take with kids.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right? I don't make it about birds. My whole goal is for them to have fun outside.
Exactly.
And we ain't nothing but big kids. Right? Let's be honest. So like, if we can be outside and we enjoy ourselves, and I'm along the way, if I see something cool, I hear something cool, I'm going to get excited.
I'm going to point it out. Exactly.
And eventually they're going to be like, well, what was that? You know? Yeah. And completely natural, not forcing it on nobody. And now they see that joy coming out of me. Now they're curious. And next thing you know, somebody else sees it. They see this person ask a question. It's like this domino effect. So I think that is fantastic advice to all birding leaders, even like the experts that, just sometimes just let it be what it's going to be. And it's okay.
You have to patent that, Sam. You have to patent that.
Yes.
For your shirt. Let it be what it's going to be. That's really incredible. Can I just lastly on the podcast, you were, for Dexter and I, you were the first one on the scene, right? And you were very instrumental influencing how we wanted to approach this podcast. What has doing that podcast hosting taught you about yourself in terms of how you are going to be exploring? Like, because you have these really, really deep conversations, right? I've slapped my steering wheel multiple times listening to your podcast episode and be like, yes, so how is that, when you turn off the headphones and you hang up the mic and you go walk into the other room after a 2-hour conversation with your homie, like, how are you internalizing that for yourself?
I think that it's a difficult question because I think that any crossover loyal Bird Joy and Always Be Burdened podcast listener knows that I have not put out an episode in a very long time. I had like about a 3-year hiatus because it took a lot out of me to have those conversations. It took so much out of me, y'all. And not because simultaneously I'm having so much fun and so much joy in connecting with our community online. It has been, because of Black Birders Week, it has been such a wonderful thing to witness how we have all come together in what I would deem some really true good friendships online, right? Having these conversations, mixed in with joy and the love of the birds, right? So like on one hand, I'm having so much fun and doing this, and I love that. That fuels me, to be honest, is connecting with like my community and platforming them, right? But on the other hand, getting off of a call that is 2 hours of hearing somebody's pain is really hard. Yeah. And internalizing it has put me in this space where I feel like I got to a point where I felt if I didn't do this, then nothing would change. Like it felt very on me, right? And everybody should realize that like Always Be Burdened is just me. I do everything by myself. And so it was a lot. And I really, really did succumb to it and had to take a break from that. Sure. I really did. And because it was hard for me to internalize the juxtaposition of how much joy I was experiencing with how much pain and space the containers that I want to build on my podcast of safety, and hearing people tell me about being sexually assaulted outside while they're birding is heavy, yo, Yeah. And so it puts me in this space where, yes, the joy fuels me, but when I hear this too, that fuels me just as much to be like, we're not doing this no more. Jason, that it was hard and it is still really hard. And it is also deeply entrenched in who I am. And so it's not something that I feel like quitting anytime soon, but I did really need to take a break.
You didn't necessarily take a break. You took a break from podcasts, but you made room to do a lot of other stuff. Yeah. Boots on the ground, creating those spaces in the real world to go out and be in community with folks. Yeah. And you needed it.
Yeah, I did. Right? I needed that joy. I needed the bird joy. Yeah, actually,
you just needed go out and birding. Your community needed it, and that's what we're here for, the community. And when we were you mentioned Black Birders Week. When we were at the Black Birders Retreat, you talked about all of us. You talked about these relationships and these friendships that we've been building. You talked about us all being part of this mycelium-like network. Can you explain that metaphor for our listeners? Because when I heard you say that, and we were sitting in that barn, I was like so inspired because I was looking around and I was just like, yeah, like we are all connected. And I have kind of seen that from that day and from since the beginning of Black Birders Week, all of us connecting across the country in different cities and communities. Can you talk to us about why you see it as that mycelium like network? I
don't know why. I just like love that reference because I think it's just so cool. And the way that like mycelium works. Also, apparently Oregon has one of the largest mycelium networks in the country / maybe the world. I'm not sure. So that's a fun note. But all of that stuff is the mycelium way of operating has many levels. And so there's straight up communication. There's straight up like nutrition passing. And then there's kind of also this idea of like resting while another part will work, right? And so I think that for me, I think my initial idea of the mycelium network was to especially with our online community, was to kind of like have this kind of weird guerrilla warfare type tactic of like, we all talking underground online, and like, this how we gonna overturn, light it all on fire, right? They're not gonna know what we're talking about because we're underground and we're not being visible, right? And so like, but I think that ultimately the way that I end up seeing it is that community can be so vast, and it doesn't necessarily need to be these people just in your immediate surroundings. And yes, that is important because it is your immediate surroundings. But for me, in order to truly change anything, it has to be vast. Those connections has to be everywhere, and the communication has to be equal, right? And that's kind of how I feel about that. And I also really enjoy tying the mycelium network with flock of birds. Help me, y'all birders.
Murmuration.
Thank you. Yes. This is kicking in. My Red Bull is kicking in. Yes, I like to mush the mycelium network idea with the murmuration as well, because the murmuration and how that tactic of evading or self-preservation against something that is aggressing, right, along with the mycelium network is really a powerful tool. I think that like we as birders totally understand in a way to shift that narrative and start to kind of change things.
I love that mycelium network. I know our listeners will as well. And I love our mycelium network.
And it is very much one. It very much is one. Yeah.
I was thinking about the fact that trees will actually pass nutrients through that network to other trees when they're not well. And just thinking about that with us, right? And you've created the pathway for a lot of people to do that, to create that community through birds, but also just the birds are what bring us to the place, but it's the other humans and the interactions that kind of make us stay. And you've helped create and hold those spaces for Black and brown people in nature. What are some key elements that make those spaces feel genuinely safe and affirming for folks?
I think the concept of like a safe space has kind of been taken these days.
Yeah.
And manipulated into something that actually isn't safe, right? And so I think all I try to do is give moments where people just can say whatever they want to say and be however they want to be, sans judgment. And I think that's the biggest part of like any safeness or safe feeling from anyone, whether it's like me and Dexter sitting in a room chatting or it's me in, a group of people out birding. It's just like, however you want to show up today, that's how you're going to show up. And I understand that need, right? To not always be on, not always be trying to be normal. I don't know. Maybe you don't want to say nothing, right? Maybe you really want to dive into that angry, deep, sad part. Maybe we just joking, whatever, And so I think that to me is how you create a safe space, and like how I tend to try and do mine is just like, yeah, however you want to show up today, I accept it. I mean, unless you're trying to like harm me, like we're not doing that. It's just sans judgment most of the time. And I think that also goes to like the mention of the mycelium network giving nutrients to other parts of the network when they need it. That's also a safe space, right? Of when you want to rest, you can rest, and I'm going to do the work now.
I got you.
Yeah.
Yep. I love basically what you're saying. Bird as you are. Show up in nature as you are, and that's okay, right? However you're feeling that day, it's okay, right? It's just fine. Whatever you need to be in that moment, just be it, and I'm here for you, no matter what that might be. So, because
nature does not really subscribe to the boxes that we have created for ourselves to jam ourselves into. They're quite literally not concerned with anything. Their nature is just going to exist as it is, no matter what. And it will shift and it will morph and it will, burn down and grow back. It will ebb and flow. And that is, I think, a huge lesson that we can take from the thing that we love to observe. Right.
this is a good segue because if you've never been birding with Sam, you need to go birding with Sam. And one thing that I don't know which episode it was of yours, but you were talking about ecotourism and about the way the system works right now with where the money's going relative to the people in the local community that you're going to see the birds in. And so you and I think, have chatted a little bit about it, but you're also involved in ecotourism. And I think trying to get some things going, how does that work kind of align with your values around liberation and community care, and maybe tell people a little bit about like what you're trying to get going?
Currently, I've paused on the ecotourism aspect of what I'm trying to do, mostly because I've not quite figured out how to do it in a way that doesn't continue that like kind of weird system of essentially, if you wanted to go on an international birding trip, you could go to like Portland Audubon, go to their website. Where are they going? Oh, they're going to go to, I don't know, Uganda. And you can pay upwards to $2,000 to secure your spot and then pay even more money to then go on that trip that's probably only 10 days, right? And then really what I found with that is that really is open to that's not very accessible for many people who just has $2,000 laying around to just like instantly hold your spot, and then more money to like then go on the trip. And then timing wise, I think that leaves it very much open to like old retired white birders. What I was finding was that was very like, because I had always wanted to go on a trip like that, but I can't afford it. There's no way that I can do it. So I was like, how can I do something similar and do it differently? And I think like in my ideal world of worlds, I would love to do something similar for BIPOC people only, and going to places and doing it in a ethical traveling way where you are specifically going and you're hiring guides who are not employed by white organizations in a Black or brown country, because they're not getting the money. It's usually these white organizations that are getting that money, right? Or at least most of it, right? How can we find local guys that are independent or whatever? And then how can we stay in places that are in a place where we're not taking over? Americans can tend to do that, no matter who you are. No matter who you are in America, we just have that freaking bravado about ourselves.
Yeah.
And where are we eating? Is our money going directly to the community that we are invading, essentially, to look at birds? Or is our money going to like big hotel names? Or is our money going to like these big ecotourism companies in other places that are like, again, ran by usually a top 1% type of situation? And I found that, yeah, you can do that. It's incredibly difficult to do. And then how can we get people to go on these trips and afford it? And that's incredibly difficult to do. Like you almost have to have money in order to have folks not spend money. Does that make sense? You know?
Yeah.
So
it's just been energy.
It's been an ongoing thing for me. I mean, I was able to do a couple events like way back in the day. I'll call it like a mini ecotourism, where I went and did a birding series in New York City and then down in Philly with you, Jason. And I tried my best I had my grant from Justice Outside. So I was able to like completely quote unquote overpay all of the guides that I hired from New York City, because I'm not trying to go over there to the East Coast talking about, I don't know what I'm looking at. You know what I mean? I don't know what a oven bird is or a red start. I don't know what that is. So like, why would I go over there pretending like I know anything? And so I paid them, and I wanted them to be able to say, this is my rate to anybody else who wants to hire them, because I think that's also a thing too, is that people will get duped out of getting payment to be a guide or to lead an outing, and you can say, no, my rate is $300 actually for 2 hours. So and then making it a community thing, where then I also had the money to then take that group of people for whatever borough we were in out to lunch after, and I paid for everything. So, but I had the money, and I can't do that every day, you know? So, and then my other one was down in Malheur, Oregon, and that was an overnight camping trip. And everything was free for them except for the just general cost, but it was sliding scale. You could pay as little or as much as you wanted. I made no money back on that. And that was obviously not the point, but I paid for the food. We did everything. And so it was really just like, do you want to come and camp and go birding? Let's go. So I tried. It's just like, I haven't figured out how to make that sustainable.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of folks.
There could be somebody out there listening, got a line to some more grants, or you want to help make ecotourism more just, that's beautiful. Leave it to Sam to be doing that work. I think that's so dope.
She's the one that I think about. Anytime I go somewhere, right, I'm asking the questions up front of like, well, who's the group and country that we're working with? Who's the other company? And if you ever go on one of those trips, I mean, one of us is always in Korea? Is that where you always are? South Korea?
I'm always in Korea,
Yeah, right? Whether it's South Korea or Africa or like India, like the money that you spend in a lot of these communities has a lot of impact. And like taking the time, I mean, if folks are listening, it's just at least taking the time to understand where that's going and making sure that's the right choice for you ethically is something you should know, coming out of this conversation for sure. And
also that like you're going to be a voyeur.
Yeah.
Like you're going to look at birds and like that is a voyeuristic thing. It is not necessary for you to do. And so doing it in the most ethical way is like, to me, that's a no-brainer because you don't need to be in this country at all, actually. And so, just do it the best way that you know how, right?
You know what, Sam? I can't tell you how excited I was to see that you're back and you're recording again, and Always Be Birding podcast is back. Yeah. Your batteries are recharged, and you're back to have these meaningful conversations. What's coming up next for you in the Always Be Birding podcast?
Yeah, I am very, very much focused on releasing new podcast episodes, and I am shifting a little bit away from how I was doing my episodes originally, in terms of I'm kind of over the struggle narrative. We know, and my podcast is for us, right? Like we know the struggle. I think it was necessary at the time because so much was happening in terms of Black Birders Week and like all of the like Black Lives Matter protests in the country, and like just once again in our history highlighting that Black and brown people suffer, right? in anything. And so a lot of my episodes were about that suffering and like highlighting it and giving folks a space to express that in a safe way for us, right? And I think many people benefited from it. I truly 100% benefited from it. But I don't want to platform the struggle narrative anymore. I'm just really ready for what do we need to do to change it? That's where I'm at. And
action.
I'm about the action part and like talking about and kind of like highlighting that in way more detail how racism and slavery and all of these things impact us today and what that looks like, not just in birding, but all around. And like, what do we need to now do to change this freaking narrative? Because it just keeps getting rebranded every like 50 years, Yes. I'm sick of it, we keep having the same damn conversation, and so I'm like, well, let's figure out what we got to do. So
well, make sure y'all are tuning in, checking out that podcast. If you don't know about it, you should know. Go back and listen to the previous seasons as well. All right, it's time
for the lightning round.
No.
What's the lightning round?
Our lightning round.
I might call an audible on one of my questions too, Dexter. I think I gotta.
All right. Yeah. So what we do, Sam, we just ask you a question, and then you just have to whatever pops in your head.
Okay, let's go.
All right. Solo birding or birding in a community?
Birding in a community.
Okay. Urban birds or wild places?
Wild places.
All right. Binoculars or vibes?
Vibes.
Learning birds by ear or by sight?
Ooh, by sight, because I'm really bad at by ear.
A bird that still takes your breath away?
Cormorant.
Ooh.
That's a good bird. Birding as rest or birding as resistance?
Both.
Good answer.
Field guide or asking the group what they think it is?
Ooh, ask asking the group. I don't need to use you guys.
All right. One word that describes what community birding makes possible.
Joy.
All right, finish this sentence. Always be birding means.
Ooh, always be birding means community as resistance.
I like it. All right.
We got a few taglines emerging in this episode, man. We got
this whole thing.
Let's go. This is actually...
If birding is a tool for collective liberation, what is its greatest strength?
Birding is a tool for collective liberation. Oh my God, you got me. I don't like, that's a hard one.
That's what we're just gonna let people think on. Maybe we'll just let people think on that one, right? But I do got one more bonus question. I got a South Korean bonus question. You got to choose one of these two birds.
Okay.
Eurasian magpie or Japanese tit?
Eurasian magpie.
Look at him coming with the bonus questions out of
I love magpies.
Pictures about birds, and I'm like here for it, right? She's got like the gorilla camera style walking down the street, you know, and I'm sitting there trying to figure out, and I'm like, where is she? I'm like on the Merlin app.
I mean, just in Korea. Yeah.
That's dope. Man, this is crazy. I mean, we're already over time. Like, these conversations go really fast. Sam, thank you so much. Before I let you go, though, I want to ask you one last question. Okay. What do you hope somebody who feels like they do not belong in birding takes away from this conversation?
I really hope that if you find this episode or whatever and you're like, dang, I really love birds, but I feel like I'm not a birder. I hear people say that all the time. I'm not a birder. I'm like, I don't even know what that means, to be honest. But I think that one, you feeling like you don't belong is you're not alone in those feelings. And because you're not alone in those feelings, know that almost all of us have never felt like we, as Black and brown birders, have never felt like we belonged. And now we do because of this community that we have built.
Yeah.
And that this community is for you. It is open to you. Find us, anybody. I feel like you could hit up me, Dexter, Jason, any of us in our DMs, and we will love to have a conversation with you.
That might be the greatest strength. Right there.
Yeah.
Right? That might be it. That this all of us together, that mycelium network. I think that might be it.
And it's crazy too, because we do have conversations in our DMs. There are people that we're going to San Diego. Dexter, there are people that are like, yo, I've been following you for a while. I live in San Diego. I'm coming there. Through.
Yeah.
And it's just, you just added that extra piece to the network now. Like, and so I encourage people to follow Sam's instructions. Speak up, reach out. You deserve to be here. You belong here. Yeah. And we are so happy to have you.
Yes. Yeah, I want to thank everybody for tuning in today to the Bird Joy podcast. I want to give a big Wisco Birder shout out to Sam. This has been, I knew it was going to be great. This was beyond what it was. We got taglines and slogans. If you ain't fired up after this conversation and motivated to get outside and realize that you belong there, man, I don't know what to say.
Me either.
Sam, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me on. I also knew that it was going to be very fun, because I feel like whenever we get together, like, it's a good time. Like, we have a good time.
Yes.
And I know that y'all are very much on the same page as me in many respects as well. So I appreciate being able to have this kind of conversation with y'all too.
Man, it's been a beautiful day, Jason. I mean, I'm so happy. Season 4 is the gift that keeps on giving. Make sure y'all give this gift to other people. Please share, subscribe, let people know what's going on here. But until next time.
And I just remind everybody out there, birding is for everyone. If this conversation didn't fix it for you, I don't know what will. So just remember that, and we'll see y'all next time.
Peace.